listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 23 Personnel Podcast. This is your post-game instant reaction. Texas Tech defeating Baylor 39-14. I'm your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
Man, I think Taj Brooks broke Baylor.
Hell yeah, he did.
Don Williams, if you're listening, feel free to use that as your headline tomorrow. I'm sure
31 carries,
yeah.
170 yards, 5.5 yards per carry, which is absolutely ridiculous. His longest run of the night is 24 yards. So 31 carries of 5.5 yards of just beating the crap out of Baylor's front, dude. Love it. Love every second of it.
Yeah,
I wish a little bit that Valdez was able to get in there and get in on the action, but it was really Brooks's night.
Yeah, Valdez, I think he had 6 handoffs.
He had 6 carries for 21 yards.
But yeah, I mean, I think that was the hot hand, to put it lightly, how well Brooks was able to run the ball. I've already got Nathan in the YouTube comments saying that he was calm the entire time, never got down once. Definitely didn't say the offense was going to blow it. So see, we're all growing. We're all growing together.
Not a pink raider in this.
Not at all. All of us had level heads the entire game.
At half, when it was 17-3, I was frustrated. I was like, we're playing like crap. Like, I felt like we were losing the game because of how things were just not going well. You had a 2-touchdown lead, and Baylor could not move the ball. They couldn't run the ball, excuse me. They were able to throw. I mean, they threw for 324 yards, a couple big plays there. I hated that. But they finished with 30 carries on the ground, Michael. You know how many rushing yards?
Not a lot.
17. 17 total rushing yards tonight. That is a 0.6 yard per carry average.
Yeah, I kind of found that interesting. You know, they went to Pendergrass in the third quarter, and it sounds like they did that too against UCF. He didn't have a lot of carries. We talked about him in the preview. Most of his carries this year came against Long Island, but he was effective on that drive. He only had the ball. Let's see. He was handed the ball 2 times for 12 yards, but he caught 4 passes for 41. And then it seems like after that drive, he was never heard from again. I know that didn't all come from that exact drive, but it seemed like a concerted effort. Okay, obviously, you know, we're not moving the ball with Richardson. Let's try to, or Reese, you know, they barely handed it to Reese. So let's try something else. And they did, and it kind of worked. And then they never really went back to it, which is fine by me.
Yeah, absolutely fine. When it happened, when he was eating our lunch for those few plays, because he was the one that was catching those screens and taking it, whatever the distance was plus 1 yard. I got frustrated and I said, little farm boys eating our lunch. And then I looked it up, Michael, hometown, Mineola.
Oh,
right.
There you go.
Nailed it. Chose Baylor over offers from Arkansas and Texas Tech. Finished his high school career, Michael, with 7,400 rushing yards, averaging 275 rushing yards per game.
Good gosh. Per game?
Probably more than just a little farm boy, but
yeah.
Dang.
To put it lightly. He was like 6'2", 215 or something on top of that. I don't know why. Boy. He's just, sorry for everybody just tuning in. We're kind of going ham over Pendergrass because he was like the lone bright spot in their offense, except for a couple of blown coverages. But he was
you say that though. He had 60. Yeah. 53 total yards. But it felt like anytime he touched the ball, it was like, it was on a pivotal moment in the game, or at least for Baylor. Will Shapen survive his O-line? Will any quarterback survive Texas Tech pass rush going forward? I'm just kidding.
Well,
We'll get to that in a minute.
I had a friend ask me this. The Ace Man asked me this.
You always say a friend. Well, just say Adam.
It's always Ace. I have one friend. I have one friend, and it's Adam. So he brought up a good point on the text. Like, hey, is our front, defensive front, are they finally figuring it out, or is Baylor's O-line just that bad? And I tend to think the pessimist in me believes it's more the latter than the former. What do you think? You're more
probably
you're better at seeing,
no.
You're
It's
better at looking at line play than I am.
I mean, I would say it may be a combination, but it probably starts off with Baylor's offensive line being really, really bad. But you know what that could do, though, is that could help ignite fires. It could get monkeys off backs. It could get people excited, like, all right, I got it. I did it. Let's figure this out and move forward.
Yeah, the dang
right?
lid's
Like,
off the basket. Let's go. But yeah,
Linton had 3 sacks tonight. And we're like, dang, like this is where we needed him all year. And he's finally playing. And maybe, as we heard on the broadcast or the radio broadcast, I don't know who all was listening to that, because I know they were in the Discord. A lot of there was people upset with our radio call. But I bring that up because they mentioned on the radio call that Linton had been dealing with a lower leg injury, and that he had finally completed his rehab and was maybe the healthiest he's been all year. So maybe I was a little too unnecessarily harsh on Linton's contributions if he was playing injured.
That's not like you.
But Miles Cole also was in the backfield. Duda Banks in the backfield. Again, so these are guys that have shown flashes, and maybe it takes a bad offensive line to get like I said, some excitement and confidence going. Because you're not getting a bad offensive line next week.
Yeah, and speaking of excitement and confidence, here we go. Tonight, defensively, as a team, 3 quarterback hurries, 4 breakups. And let's see, what it was, 11 tackles for a loss.
4 forced fumbles.
Yeah. 4 sacks with 1, 2, 3, 4 different players getting in on the action. I just couldn't, we can point to a couple of bad plays or a couple of Baylor didn't convert many third downs, but the handful they did were pretty crucial for them trying to get back into the game. But the defense, I mean, what issues do you have? Do you have any with today aside from, like I said, the 4th and 5? Yeah, we can go into that. But just the way they played to allow 1 touchdown the entire game. 1 field goal was because of a fumble, a very rare Taj Brooks fumble. So I'm not even really going to go into that too much either. But the defense basically on their own allowed 11 points without the aid of a turnover, providing a short field for a field goal.
When you win by 3 touchdowns, Michael, it feels stupid to nitpick. So no, I don't have any issues with the defense tonight. Because of the very small number of plays that you can be frustrated with the defense, whether it was the yards to go +1 pickups they had on 3rd down, that blown coverage on 4th and 5. We're talking about what, 4, 5 plays total. But you look at the rest of the night. I mean, I understand that Baylor had a really good passing night, and part of that has to do is they were playing from behind all night. they couldn't run the ball, and then they were down, so they had to throw it. Baldwin had himself a night. We knew he was capable of big plays, and he showed out, right? Like, you got a blown coverage, whether it was a missed assignment on man, or they just didn't pass off the receiver in zone. Either way, it didn't matter. He was wide open. Then Rabbit, I mean, not a terrible angle, but just a bad angle to play the pass, and was playing the ball to try to break up that throw. And when he missed it, there's just nobody left. So again, like, when you beat somebody by 25 points, no, I'm not going to nitpick and say, well, oh man, if we can just clean those up, we'd be really, really good. You held a team that just absolutely ate your lunch last year to 17 rushing yards. And they did it by just pounding you over and over and over again on the ground. Was this your Super Bowl? Maybe. But you know what you did with it? You beat their ass.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out, too, we've been third down distance has been kind of a point I've been harping on all year for our offense. So today, Tech's offense average of third down distance was 5.3 yards, but Baylor's offense, that's what I wanted to point out, average third down distance 9.2. They just could not move the ball against this defense.
That third down average to go for Tech, top of my head, the shortest has been all year.
I think so too. I think we saw 5 or 6 even against Tarleton State. It was kind of that range even for that game. Of course, a lot of crazy things happened in that game, but I think that was probably the closest it's been. And really, the offense, as much as they stuttered and kind of had some issues, like you said, I mean, 39-14, when it was all scored by the offense this time. There were no defensive scores. There were no special team scores. The most points they've scored offensively all year, I believe. I'd have to go back and double check Tarleton State, but I mean, how much are we going to count that one, really? So, despite their troubles and despite what looks like an obviously hobbled Baron Morton, they still managed only 2 3-and-outs. One of them was in the fourth quarter. The the first one was right after an excellent 11-play, 75-yard, 5-minute, 14-second scoring drive, and then they go 3-and-out, and you just kind of start to think, oh crap, here we go. But no, that is not how it went. There were a couple of short possessions due to the fumble, turnover on downs, the interception, of course, which was just one play. But yeah, we could nitpick the offense a little bit, but just to go on the road in a place that the announcers love to point out that you hadn't won there since 2007, I guess never in that stadium. So 39-14 against a Big 12 team after having a victory against a Big 12 team. The whole stack and success thing, getting 2 conference wins in a row is huge, and getting one on the road is huge. We may look back later and say, okay, well, that Baylor team ended up 5-7, 4-8, whatever. Today, Tech won on the road, which is something I was not really sure they could do.
Well, you hadn't beaten anybody on the road with a pulse, and you may still not have, right? Like, Baylor may end up just terrible. But before tonight, it was your last road victory was Kansas.
Yes.
So.
Oh no, it was Iowa State. It was Iowa State last
year.
You're
right. It was Iowa State last year, and
then it was Kansas
before that.
Yeah, your last 2 were Iowa State in 22 and Kansas in 21. And that's 21 Kansas, not 2022 or 2023 Kansas, who put a shellacking on UCF today. Just absolutely. They talk about imposing will. I think they had 2 running backs with over 100 yards, almost had 3. It was.
I wish we had 2 running backs with 100 yards.
I tuned in and watched one of those drives. just a little bit today. I was just kind of messing around the house, and I thought, man, I would love if Tech had a drive just like that, and they had a couple of them tonight. It was really fun to see. Just very few passes, just pounding the rock, taking care of business, scoring touchdowns. Let's go. I love that I'm comparing Tech to Kansas and going, man, I want some more of that. Let's 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 see that Jayhawk football. Let's see what they got.
Okay. You brought up drives. I want to talk about how the game started, Michael.
Okay.
I think it was 6 plays in a row that it wasn't like it was a combination of running it and throwing it, but it was 6 in a row or whatever it was where it was Taj Brooks. It was just Brooks. It was like obviously the game plan here is get Brooks the ball, feed him, right? And we've been clamoring for this, and it continues to work. It continues to just wear people down. Your shortest touchdown drive was the 3-play, 14-yard drive that you took the ball over right there at the end of the game. 23 seconds. Any other time you scored a touchdown, Michael, you were running clock. 3 minutes and 1 second is the shortest touchdown drive you had in terms of time. You had a 3 minute, 1 second, 5:14, 6:24, 4:19. The other drive you scored on was a field goal, was a minute 8, and you went 7 yards. Like when things were working, you were just doing it all over the field, up and down the field.
And even really nice. Defensively, it was consistent. Last week they obviously changed the game plan, and DeRuyter talked about it, about how they were going to defend Smith or defend against Smith. And in this game, we talked about, I think they ended up with, what was it, 11 tackles for a loss. Tech's defense ended up with 11 tackles for 11. A loss and 6 sacks. Well, they had 6 tackles for a loss and 3 sacks in the first half. So it was almost even Steven on that. It's not like we're going to ramp it up in the second half, or, we thought we could do this. It's like, no, they came in with a winning game plan and were able to successfully execute it the entire game. I don't think they had to go into halftime and say, well, we've got to change a bunch of stuff. I think they just were, hey, you guys are doing it. We just got to get some plays to break our way on offense, and it's going to blow up. And it did. It feels nice.
It does.
Did you want to do a quick look around Big 12 just so we can kind of, Kansas State's obviously the big one. That was the Friday night game.
Surprised with that one. Yeah, let's look around the conference.
I was too. Kansas State went into Stillwater. Stillwater went up 10-0 in the first quarter, and then I say Stillwater went up 10-0. Yeah, the Stillwater Cowboys, they never led. Kansas State was down the entire game, lost 29-21 to a not good Oklahoma State team. That game looks a lot more winnable to me now than it did, and especially after tonight, it looks a lot more winnable. I think it's going to be a very physical game next week, seeing those two teams go at it.
I would love to see Friday night Will Howard in Lubbock next weekend. 15 of 34, 4.5 yards per average, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, QBR 42.
Yeah, hopefully this isn't, his trip to Lubbock is not the get right game. It's just it's the hangover game.
Now, they were pretty good on the ground. 38 carries, 220 yards, 5.8 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, long of 70. That 70-yarder was Will Howard on a touchdown. So if you take out that one run, that changes everything else. But Howard was 9 carries for 34 yards instead of 10 carries for 104. That 5.8 drops quite a bit. Yeah, I going into the season, like I was like, man, Kansas State's going to be tough, and we've talked about it of your toughest games remaining. They were second highest in terms of what's tough, up there with Texas. But man, if that's a road, if Kansas State is a team that struggles on the road, you've got a blueprint to do what Oklahoma State did to them. Do it at your house at the time where you were figuring out your offense, your run game specifically, your rush defense is getting better and better. Yeah, I would hesitate to say like Will Howard try to beat Tech through the air, but like pretty confident in our rush defense right now.
Well, and I'm glad to hear that because I alluded to Kansas earlier. They won at home 51-22 against UCF while amassing 399 rushing yards
on 51 attempts.
Yes.
They threw the ball 12 times, Michael.
And scored 51 points.
It's a point per carry. 7.8 yards per attempt. Part of that is a 75-yarder from Devin Neal, but he had 12 carries for 154 yards. Daniel Hishaw, 19 carries, 134 yards, long of 29. So his 7.1 yards per carry is pretty dang good. Dylan McDuffie, 13 carries, 91 yards, 7.0 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, long of 36. I mean, pretty good little rushing attack.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too shabby.
So
something to keep an eye on.
Oklahoma State wins on Friday. Kansas takes down UCF 51-22. The Big 12 was drunk this weekend. I mean, outside of like Texas Tech winning, because I think that was the least weird of all the outcomes. Oklahoma takes down Texas in the Red River rivalry shootout, whatever they will call it.
I'm not saying it. I can't.
34-30 in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. Oklahoma takes the lead with like 30 seconds to go or whatever it was. They had their way with the Texas rush defense. I mean, 43 carries, 201 yards, nearly 5 yards per carry. Texas ran the ball 40 times for 156 yards, just under 4 yards per carry. And Quinn Ewers, he looked pretty good, except for his touchdown to interception ratio was backwards. 31 of 37, 346, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions.
Hey, shout out to Last Sunrise here in the YouTube chat. They just got out of the stadium and said that was awesome.
Thanks for joining, man.
Yeah, what a cool, that's a really cool game to go to. Did Baylor game, which thanks to David Collier, I didn't realize, and obviously the Cotton Bowl and Jerry World, but I didn't realize this is the first night game in Waco that Texas Tech has played since 1999.
It's awesome. I mean, part of that has to do with Baylor just been so bad for so long over that stretch.
Yeah,
but
that their good stretch was during the time where they weren't playing at home.
Yeah, we were playing them in Dallas.
It's too bad.
And then the last Big 12 game, Iowa State at home takes down TCU 27-14. Iowa State figuring things out on offense, but also intercepted Chandler Morris 4 times. TCU had 3 different quarterbacks attempt to pass. Maybe.
Are they having injury issues like they gave to every other freaking team in the Big 12 last year? I don't want people to get hurt. It's just that was a troubling pattern.
So they had 3 different quarterbacks throw the 4 interceptions. Josh Hoover, who finished the game with the most yards, 119. He was 11 of 19, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Chandler Morris, 10 of 16, 94 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. J.P. Richardson, the running back, I think. 1 attempt, 1 interception. He's a receiver. Sucks. That's what you get for having non-quarterbacks throw the ball. What's his face? Browse trying to be too tricky there. But even they had a good day on the ground. 37 carries, 185 yards, 5 yards per carry. Iowa State, oh my gosh. 37 carries, 215 yards, 5.8 yards per carry. Rocco Becht is their quarterback. What a name. What a name.
Is it time to start walking back the whole, well, I wish we played Iowa State this year. Maybe we don't. Maybe we don't wish that now.
I don't care. I'm not playing.
Say that?
Not playing them, so.
Yeah, not playing them.
They don't scare me.
Yeah.
All right. You want to talk about Morton? 19 of 26, sure. 180 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, which was just so bad. You just had a 4th down stop, got the ball back, and literally threw it right back to him.
Yeah, that looked like one of those throws where, well, it was bad. And whether it was injury related or not, it was still just about the worst possible place to place that. Especially when he was open. I can't remember the receiver. That's awful.
I think it was Aiken.
Oh, okay.
He
had him streaking down the sideline, but
had to slow down. The corner caught up.
Yeah, with Morton, what I'm hoping is Tech can get through this K-State game, and then they have their bye week, right? And then the Thursday game against TCU.
TCU, yep.
So, that would be great. If Morton's still a little limited against Kansas State, hopefully Tech can still move the ball offensively like they did tonight. But yeah, part of me feels like that throw would have been made if he'd have been completely healthy, but I don't think the coaches have a whole lot of a choice right now.
Got BYU before TCU. It's Kansas State, BYU, then TCU.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, BYU, and then we're off on the 28th.
I had my bye weeks mixed up. I was hoping we were coming on one quicker. I thought we had one after K-State, but shows what I know. So
we're also right in the middle of where all the Big 12 teams are kind of rotating who has the week off. We talked about that in the preseason, how there was like this block, like a 2 or 3 week window where every team's going to have a bye week. And we're there now. BYU did not play this weekend, but neither did like Kansas. Sorry, not Kansas. That was stupid. Cincinnati, Houston,
West Virginia.
That's what it was. Oh, I got Kansas stuck in my head there. All right. Anything else you want to touch on, Michael? I mean, it was dominant win. There were times where it felt a little closer than the final score to indicate. You were in control basically from the first time you had possession of the ball when you drove down the field. To the end of the game. I mean, it was wire to wire. You led the entire game. You were only tied for as long as you had the ball in the first drive.
Yeah, I mean, and I think all I wanted to add was Tech's O-line played super well. Cole Spencer was out. Tharp was out, and, he's technically part of the O-line. Cup was fantastic. Price had his moments. They're obviously trying to get him more involved in the offense. I would have liked to have seen I blinked on his name. Not Bradley.
It's a Fungi. McRae.
No. Oh well. But anyway, I was really impressed with the guys that stepped up on the offensive line. Were able to protect Morton until I think the fourth quarter. Baylor finally got a sack on him, but just this Baylor defense, what we saw tonight, reminded me a lot of what we used to see as Tech fans on the defensive side of the ball. Just missed tackles, just completely getting manhandled, too slow, couldn't
demoralized
bring down anybody. Yeah, it felt good to be on the other side of that. just knowing that, okay, if we want to hand it to Brooks and he gets 1 yard this play, all right, fine. He'll probably get 7 the next time we hand it to him. This is just how this is going to work. This is what we're going to do. Try to stop it. And they couldn't. It felt really freaking good.
Especially when it was like, it wasn't just that Brooks would, line up on 3rd and 2 and get 3 yards. He would hit the line and then bounce out for 10 more after that. That last touchdown he broke out and ran at 18 yards. I mean, it was just fantastic. I mean, there were times when it was like he would hit the line and pick up just a couple of yards. I don't have the numbers in front of me, like how many of his rushes were fewer than 3 yards. Probably you can count them on one hand. Like he was just that automatic. When you handed him the ball, he was picking up 5 yards. You mentioned the receivers. Price had 10 catches. Nobody else had more than 2. Kupp, Aiken, McRae all 3 of them had 2. White, Bradley, Brooks all had 1. So through the air, it looked like it was going to be Price, and maybe that was a piece of the game plan based on Morton's shoulder. We weren't throwing it deep downfield a whole lot. But there were times when he threw the roll long throws to the sideline. They were fast. They were on time. They were on target. So I don't know if I would believe that his shoulder's bothering him, or maybe it is, but it just it would limit how many times that he can make those throws. But if that means that Price is getting more looks over the middle, is that Baylor Cup more looks over the middle? Mason Tharp, let's do it, man.
Yeah, and let's set up that beautiful play action. In the
RPO to Cup was just a thing of beauty, man.
It was just gorgeous.
Chef's kiss. Yeah.
Yep. You just knew it was coming at some point, or you hoped that it was coming, and it showed up, and he couldn't have been any more wide open. And Texas Tech guys went on the road to a conference opponent, won by 25, and threw the ball 26 times.
Mm-hmm.
Sign me up. I mean, whatever. The main thing is getting the win. But if Tech's able to do something like this, throw for 180 yards and win by 4 touchdowns, yes, please.
Has lots to do with the defense too, man.
Oh, yeah.
All right. If there's not anything else from you, Michael, not anything else that we need to talk about from the stream comments, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We will have your Kansas State preview on Tuesday night. Check back in right here on the 23 Personnel YouTube channel if you want to do that live with us. A little after 9 Tuesday night. Catch it in your podcast feeds later that night, Wednesday morning. That'll do it for us. For your instant reaction, Texas Tech taking down Baylor 39-14. I'm your host, Spencer. For Michael, we'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at PuntSuck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.